Hey, I'm Ton Vin, and this is SeattleEats, a food podcast from the Seattle Times and KUOW. We say goodbye to restaurants every week in Seattle, but two recent closures have a little extra sting. Craft cocktail bar Foreign National shut its doors a few weeks ago with less than a day's notice, and pioneering Vietnamese restaurant Stateside closed the next day. Both spots were co-owned by chef Eric Johnson. I'll explain why they were so iconic in Seattle's restaurant scene. But there's also some good news. 28 new establishments opened in the last half of the summer, and I'll tell you about two that caught my eye. One is a popular takeout spot on Capitol Hill that's expanding to a new neighborhood. And the second is a British pub with comfort food from across the pond. I'll get into all the ups and downs of the month's food scene with SeattleEats producer Clare McGrane. Let's go. Hey, Seattle Eaters. Clare McGrane is back in the studio. Clare, what are you eating this summer?
I'm eating a lot of fruit, like a lot of peaches. And something that I think you have strong feelings about, soft serve ice cream.
Oh, God. Did you really have to?
I love soft serve, Ton. I don't know where this resistance comes from. What do you have against it?
I just like good desserts.
Oh, my gosh.
I like good ice cream. But on to the news. We'll start with the bad news first. The closure of Stateside and its accompanied bar, Foreign National.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about these because I read about them closing. And then you told me both of these spots are like really noteworthy in the Seattle food scene. So tell me why.
Let's take Stateside first. For those who haven't been, shame on you. Where were you all these years?
I've been busy, Ton.
It is a high-end Vietnamese restaurant that opened in Capitol Hill in 2014. Since then, there's been a lot of high-end Vietnamese restaurants. There have been a lot of ambitious Vietnamese restaurants. But I would say this restaurant has a lot of cultural significance in ways that we don't seem to remember, but I like to revisit this topic, and that is food economy. When this restaurant opened, people loved the food, a lot of national press, but there were a lot of angry people who felt that it was price gouging. It was a yuppifying of Vietnamese food because their noodle dishes and their entrees cost twice as much as what you would get in Little Saigon or Rainier Valley. And people notice. And it also shows me how naive we are about food economy. When Stateside opened, they opened in a very high-end, high real estate area in Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
So that should tell you right then that they pay a lot more in rent. That is not the same as opening a restaurant in Rainier Valley or Chinatown or Little Saigon where the rent is a lot cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And Claire, I know people understand this because they know that, hey, if you buy a house or rent an apartment in Capitol Hill, that will cost you a lot more money than if you were to rent in Chinatown or buy a house in Rainier Valley. Mm-hmm. We know this, but yet when it comes to food, we somehow don't equate that same formula.
That makes a ton of sense. And I think one reason that it's so obvious to kind of me or any other person around the city is you can go on Zillow and Redfin and look at how much it costs to rent an apartment or buy a house in different parts of the city. And I know I could never afford to buy something on Capitol Hill, for example, with my salary at least. But you don't have that window into how much it costs for a restaurant or for any other small business. And I would be curious to see those numbers and like how much it would cost to get a restaurant or a storefront in X versus Y neighborhood, because I'm betting I would be surprised.
Yeah. And along the same line, Claire, look at the menu, not just Stateside, but any high-end restaurants. What do they serve you? Because in front of the word salmon and chicken and beef is the word organic, free range. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? Those will cost more than the usual staple that you find in Safeway.
This is me every time I'm in the egg aisle and I'm like, am I going to pay $4 or $5 more to buy eggs from a free-range chicken versus like the cheapest available styrofoam container of eggs. And that's a really hard decision to make, especially in an expensive city. So when you're not like looking at the different price options, I can imagine someone might look at a menu and go, whoa, you want how much for a sandwich or for a bowl of noodles?
Yeah, and see, this is what gets me. Because people get it, Claire. You get it. You know real estate costs more in certain neighborhoods. You know certain products that says organic will cost more. But yet, when you go to a place like Stateside, you don't take that into consideration. You just say, and Stateside got a lot of this. You just say, hey, this is Vietnamese food. It should not cost that much. It's more nuanced than that. Mm-hmm. In fact, this is how I would approach it. You want cheap eats? Don't look at a certain restaurant. Look at the neighborhood they're in. Because they have to pay the rent. Selling banh mi's for $1.50 will not pay the rent. I'm sorry.
On Capitol Hill, for sure not.
Exactly. And people don't get that, and it drives me crazy. So yes, this is why I want to talk about Stateside, because they were in the center of this controversy.
And it was really popular on Capitol Hill as well, right?
Oh, they had a big fan base. People love it. And I realize Eric Johnson is not Vietnamese. He's a white guy.
Yeah.
But he introduced a whole range of demographic to Vietnamese food that you wouldn't normally see, that people wouldn't even explore. He did a lot of northern dishes. In Seattle, it's mostly southern dish, but he did a lot of northern dishes. To get northern dishes or central dishes in Seattle 10 years ago, you would have to go to Little Saigon and Rainier Valley or go to Monsoon. And he was one of the other people besides Eric Bond, Ballard, and Monsoon who did this.
All right. So that is closure number 1, Stateside. And the second closure is a craft cocktail bar that's kind of a sister operation, right? Called Foreign National. So tell me about Foreign National.
Claire, I would say Foreign National is one of the most significant, consequential opening in Seattle in the past 20 years. Stateside got all the publicity. They got all the ink. But you know what? Stateside is like pretty much, dime a dozen. There are a lot of people doing ambitious Vietnamese food. Foreign National is much more ambitious, much more focused. It is not a Vietnamese cocktail bar, but it is a craft cocktail bar that does a lot of Southeast Asian-themed cocktails that have the DNA of tiki without that Polynesian kitsch.
Oh my gosh. Okay, that's really interesting because I love a tiki drink, but I always feel a little like I'm going to be judged if I order something like that. Or if I go into a tiki bar, I'm a little bit like, oh gosh, it's so over the top. It makes me think of the scene in Lilo and Stitch, which is set in Hawaii, where all the white tourists are like at this bar and all the, native Hawaiian staff are kind of rolling their eyes.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with tiki drinks. But I think what Foreign National offers is they showed you that not all Asian tropical drinks or cheeky or cheesy. They can be very serious, contemplative drinking. And I thought that was unusual because back then, pretty much if you think Southeast Asian drink, you think island drinks and tiki drinks. And they did very sophisticated drink. They had an apple brandy drink that I would say, just for better or worse, is kind of, sort of a take on a Singapore sling, but much more elegant, much more balanced, had a lot of depth and flavor. But of course, Foreign National could not keep this up. It was a very ambitious menu. I would say that things started changing 18 months in because they became so big. I mean, there were lines out the door, literally.
They kind of suffered under their own success.
Yeah, and you just cannot find bartenders of that high quality who are that efficient, who could deal with this massive demand. And so I would say, streamlined, maybe not dump it down, but streamlined, took a lot of the ambitious drinks off the menu. But Claire, I would say the other thing that people don't talk about, even within the bartending community, is Foreign National helped introduce the city to this thing called Pisco. Pisco is a grape brandy from South America associated with Peru.
Grape brandy, you said?
It is a grape brandy.
Okay.
But just like you have this look in your face, everyone else has the same thing. If I say Pisco, the only word that comes to mind is a Pisco sour.
Actually, what I was going to say is you mispronounced Picasso. I've never heard of this. Grape brandy, and you said Pisco sour.
Yes. Pisco is the only spirit where it's associated with just one cocktail, Pisco sour.
So is this a signature cocktail in Peru?
Yes and no. It is the most popular drink that's associated with Peruvian drink culture. Now, is it the most popular? It's popular with tourists.
Oh, okay.
I've been to Peru 3 times, twice in the last 4 years. I did not see locals drinking pisco sour. I see a lot of bars with like flashing lights and with sandwich boards saying, "Hey, pisco sour special." But the drink that I would say people in Peru drink more, at least from my experience, the 3 times I've been there, is sort of like, I would call it a pisco Manhattan. It's called Capitan. It's a very spirit-forward, very elegant drink. You don't see it here in the United States as much. You will find it now in Seattle, here and there.
Oh, okay.
If you go to Canlis, the bartender is from Peru, and he does have it on the menu.
So just pay someone like $30 at Canlis, and you can
you
can have this drink. So Foreign National and Stateside both closed really suddenly. Like, Foreign National announced on a Thursday that they were going to be closed after last call that night, and then Stateside closed the next day. What happened?
That is something we still don't know. Eric Johnson did talk to the Seattle Times. He would not say why. We do know his lease was ending. Now, why was it not renewed? Did he decide not to renew it? That we don't know. He left it vague. But he did say that he is not leaving Seattle. And what is implied there is that he has a second act here, that he plans to be here, and he's a chef. So you would at least, I think, can logically assume that he will open another restaurant or work in another restaurant, which is great because I think he is one of the most talented chefs in this area.
Let's talk about some better news, because there are always places opening in Seattle, cafes and restaurants and bars, and you do this kind of regular roundup of new openings. But I always want to know, like, what stands out to you. So you picked 2 this time that are interesting. Tell me what the first one is.
First is Cornelly. It's a pizza place on Upper Queen Anne. This might sound familiar because they have another location on Capitol Hill. But it's by name only, I would say. The one on Capitol Hill is this small place, but the new space they have is much more ambitious. It's 3 times bigger than what's on Capitol Hill. It's not a cut and paste menu. It's a totally different concept.
This is something I'm always kind of curious about when, especially a smaller restaurant expands into a new location. Do they just keep the same menu and just, like you said, like copy and paste over and over? Like, how rare is it for them to change things up?
Claire, I don't know a lot of restaurants, forget Seattle, just in the state or even this region that does this. Because the whole point of expanding usually is you're successful, so you're sticking with the greatest hits. This place is really taking a lot of risks, in my opinion, because they made their name on their pizza and, just a few pasta dishes. And this restaurant that they have, it's a completely different menu. Even the pizza menu is different from what they have on Capitol
They were like,
Hill.
we need different, fancier pizzas for Queen Anne.
Right? You laugh. That's exactly what they did for their clientele. The original place on Capitol Hill has a few pizza, a few pasta. This place has a bigger menu. They added seafood. They added more pasta. They added a completely different pizza menu. Claire, this is the most unique and creative pizza menu I've seen in Seattle.
Wow. Wait, why? What they got on there?
Claire, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. You're a vegetarian. They only have one meat pizza.
Yes. Win for the veggies.
And of course, it's a pepperoni pizza. But the other pizza is pretty much like, sort of like a farmer's market approach to pizza. It's just fresh produce. The pizza I had grilled corn as a topping with fresh mozzarella. But other pizzas was like heirloom tomatoes with grilled olives. Another pizza was just seasoned mushroom, whatever's in season. And that to me is one of the most creative approach to pizza. Because usually when you use fresh produce, it's usually on pasta or salad. But they decide to use fresh produce on a dough.
And I appreciate that because much as I like eating pizza, it's like a lot of bread and cheese.
Yeah.
So if you can get a veggie in there, like, my tummy is happier. My arteries are probably happier in the long run. But so I made a joke about, like, you need fancier pizza for Queen Anne. But is that really why they decided to change the menu up this much?
Part of the reason why is it's a different chef, so they wanted the chef to have leeway on doing whatever they want. But the other part of that is its demographic. Claire, to give you an example, when the place opens at 5 o'clock on Capitol Hill, I see a lot of single people. I see people in their 20s or 30s. I see a lot of people getting takeout. But when I ate with Cornelly on Upper Queen Anne around 5, I see baby strollers. I see people like PTA parents. I even talked to the owner, and he confirmed to me. He says around 5 to 6:30, it's mostly parents on Upper Queen Anne dining there. And I can tell you that is not the case on Capitol Hill. So it's great because here's a situation where it's a new demographic and they tailored the menu for the new audience. And Claire, the one thing that surprised me of all is I had their pizza on Capitol Hill when they first opened around the pandemic. This is a much better dough. It has a nice, sharp, fermented tang, so like a sourdough tang. It's really good. And it goes well with a lot of the produce, the seasonal produce.
All right, that's Cornelly, which is expanded to Upper Queen Anne. I'm really excited to talk about your second pick for this month, though, because this is a place that people in my family have been hyped for, and it's called Little Beast. So give us like the rundown on it.
Claire, this one was just for you. Not our listeners, not our NPR donors. I picked this one just specifically for you. Yes.
Thank you, Ton. It's good to be seen.
The place called Little Beast. It's on the main restaurant row in Ballard. It's from Kevin Smith, who was a semifinalist for the James Beard Award as Emerging Chef in 2023.
Okay.
He has a butcher shop. He has a tasting menu. He's from London, so he's pretty much doing pub fare from across the pond. He does meat pies. He does Scotch eggs. He does sausage rolls, sticky toffee pudding. There's a Sunday roast. And, of course, you have that Yorkshire pudding.
Oh,
right?
my gosh. I get to eat a Yorkshire pudding like once a year when I convince my mom to make them on Christmas. And it is joyous. They are so good.
And I should back up here because this is another place where I went, and there was a long line outside. And I'm like, this is it. There's no way I'm getting in line just for, like, Yorkshire pudding. But
I would. Let me be clear.
I know you
would.
And you're a vegetarian, and you would actually eat a sausage roll, yes?
Yeah, that's one of the things when I'm back in the UK, I will have a sausage roll because it's just such a comfort food. It's something that I ate growing up. It's like ground sausage with lots of spices just wrapped in kind of puffy pastry. And there's nothing like a good sausage roll.
Yeah, I think they do the best sausage roll. Can I tell you?
Okay.
Because the sausage roll in the city, Claire, is like so mealy. It's like meatloaf. But his is coarsely ground pork. And it's still drippy, juicy. And it's covered in this buttery pastry sheet. And has that crackly crunch on the outside. Kind of eggshell thin, but crackly crunch. And once you break through that skin, it just gets so drippy, juicy.
I have two things to say here. One is I do have a homemade sausage roll recipe, which I don't know that it would stand up to this, but you don't have to wait in line in Ballard. So thanks to my mom for that. And the second thing I would say is it's really interesting to me that this place is so packed and popular because British food, not the best reputation. A lot of meat, a lot of potatoes, not a lot of flavor. You know, I think that's the conception of it. So I think it's great that Little Beast is really getting a lot of attention, that people are liking it.
You're right. People don't think English pub food as like Parisian food. It's not well respected, isn't it?
No.
So I'm very excited to see what he does with this place because we need this. And this is why I mentioned this place, not just for you, Claire, to be honest, but I just realized people are scared to take risks. Or maybe scared isn't the right word because you're losing everything, your mortgage, if you fail. So, but I think this is one of the more unusual opening. Like I said, Claire, I don't have a lot of patience with lines, so I did not eat here. I just walked by, saw the epic 1 hour wait. I was like, no, I'm good. I'll be back. I will be back for the sausage roll.
I think the real test for a lot of British expats at Little Beast, yes, the sausage roll, but that is kind of easier to replicate. Like I said, my mom has a recipe. But a meat pie, that is hard to make at home. And if their Instagram is anything to go by, they are serving juicy, juicy meat pies. So that'll be interesting to see.
I'm glad you said that because you know what? I did have the tasting menu at the butcher shop because it comes undone, and he did make me a meat pie.
And how was
sorry.
it?
It was outstanding, but then again, it's not like I eat meat pie every time.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't have a measure for it. Okay.
Exact-
Well, take my brother with you when you go, and my brother will give you his honest review of every meat pie on the menu.
Claire, thanks as always for joining me.
Thank you, Ton.
That's it for today. We have a list of all the restaurants we talked about in the description of this episode. Thanks for listening to Seattle Eats. The show is a production of Seattle Times and KUOW, part of the NPR network. You can support Seattle Eats by investing in the local newsroom and the specialized beats to make this sort of storytelling possible. Please consider joining and subscribing at KUOW.org/eats and seattletimes.com. Seattle Eats is produced by Clare McGrane and Brandy Fullwood and edited by Jim Gates and Trevor Lensmeyer. I'm Tom Ben. See you next week.